Elevate TV, advancing kingdom lifestyle.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Gigi Report. I'm your host, Godfrey Gichuki, and this is another exciting moment. I want to welcome you to join us for today's show. It's going to be interesting, exciting. We have an amazing guest, so stay tuned in. If you're following us on the social media platforms, remember to share the links with your friends, and also leave your comments, leave your footprint on the social media platforms. So welcome to the show. I have a special guest, like I've said, Dr. Master his second name is very difficult to pronounce, but I'll master it over time. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and greetings to the great people of this republic.
Absolutely amazing. So I'm going to, as usual, introduce the subject matter of our discussion. Then I'll introduce our guest, and then we can get the conversation underway. Today we want to talk about the fight against religious extremism in Africa. Among many other problems that bedevil the space, the Christian space in Africa, that's a big one. So religious extremism presents a huge challenge to peace, social, economic development, and political stability for some nations in Africa, especially the Sahel region and some parts of South Africa recently. So the Association of the Evangelical in Africa was created in 1966 to bring together members with common concern to live and proclaim the good news of Jesus among all the nations and peoples, and seeking holiness, justice, transformation at every level. That is individual, family, community, and cultures. 57 years later, I have the General Secretary or Secretary General of the Association of Evangelicals in Africa, and he's going to be speaking to us and telling us about some of the things they do. And so let me introduce him, but before I do, I want to remind you that the GG Report is a platform for big, bold, and honest conversation, like I always say, on a broad range of subject matter: social, cultural, philosophical, economic, and theological matters, including politics. And so today we're going to have a real in-depth conversation. All right, so my guest is Dr. Master Matlhaope. He tried to teach me how to pronounce his name. He's the General Secretary of the Association of Evangelicals in Africa, which is headquartered here in Nairobi. Born in Botswana, Dr. Matlhaope is the co-founder and first chairperson of Botswana Network of Christian Church Organization, and also he also served in the Evangelical Alliance equivalent in Botswana. And Dr. Matlhaope holds a PhD in practical theology from the Northwest University in South Africa, and is pursuing another PhD in leadership at ILU, that is International Leadership University here in Kenya. And Dr. Matlhaope, I know you have a link. There is a link between ILU and Africa Evangelical, the Association of Evangelicals in Africa. So, well, welcome to this show. Welcome to the conversation. Let's get this conversation underway. So, welcome. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Dr. Master, I think Master is easier for me to deal with. Let me welcome you to the show. We begin from where I like beginning. You tell us about your career and how you got to where you are today.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you for having me. My name, let me say it myself so that the dear listeners can get it clear. My name's Dr. Master Matlhaope. Yes, the second PhD is with Africa International University, which is the University of the Association of Evangelicals in Africa here in Kenya. I come from Botswana, and I was born in a village called Galfontein.
All right.
In Ganzi district.
Okay.
In the southwestern part of Botswana.
Okay.
That's where I come from. And my career basically, several caps. The ones that are maybe noteworthy, appointed by the Minister of Home Affairs equivalent to be part of the 10 persons in the advisory and arbitration. So I was an arbitrator and also advisory to the Minister of Home Affairs. I was also appointed in the Council of Nurses Midwifery Council of Botswana, once appointed by the President to design, write the long-term vision of our country, which is basically the base of our 5-year development plans.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically, that is in a nutshell who I am. Thank you so much.
All right. Yeah, amazing. We also have Vision 2030 here. So yours is Vision 2036. I checked that out, and that's amazing.
Yes.
And I think the way I understand those visions are implemented, they are implemented in 5-year chunks.
Yes.
Absolutely amazing. So, so tell us about the Association of Evangelicals in Africa, the role, the founding, that background, the organization you're working for.
Association of Evangelicals in Africa, AEA, formerly was Association of Evangelicals in Africa plus Madagascar. Before Madagascar became part of the continent, but then ultimately just the Association of Evangelicals in Africa was formed to basically bring together evangelicals in one common ground at a continental level. So it is an umbrella for national alliances or evangelical fellowships within different national spaces. But also houses para-church organizations, World Vision, TFN, Daystar University, any organization that has transnational reach can apply for membership. Basically, it's a unity of evangelicals in the continent of Africa.
Okay. Okay, and surprising, I didn't know that Daystar is part of that equation. But I think that's very, interesting. And one of the reasons why I really felt I wanted to speak to you is because, at the national level, sometimes we feel like we're just fighting, our own small battles here. And I see a lot of church leaders coalescing and forming associations and all that. But it's good to know that there is a much bigger formation where you can find, say, for example, leadership, guidance, materials, resources, ideas. So, and there are very many people, Africans, Christians are working together, because I think there's a narrative that Christians are divided. And maybe you could speak into that. Now that you're in that space, do you really believe that churches are divided? It kind of seems to just be, people just say the church is divided, but is that true?
The church is united. And unity is unity because there is diversity.
Right.
Within. That's why you talk of unity. Otherwise, there's no unity. It's unity because you have diverse dynamics within that collection.
Right.
So within a nation, you will have a national alliance which houses different churches, different ministries. And it's okay for
Yeah.
people to have different churches, different ministries. But it's also proper and important for these different people to come together under some form of an alliance or even fellowship where they sharpen each other and they have a common cause, one voice for all, despite diversity within themselves. And then at a continental level, you have the same,
Yeah.
where we have different countries coming together across the continent of Africa. Then you, at a global level, you have World Evangelical Alliance,
Right.
where all continents come together now under the World Evangelical Alliance, which we will then have permanent representatives at the United Nations,
Okay.
where we escalate our issues when need be to the Human Rights Council of the United Nations. We have permanent representatives there, but all from the national formations up to continental and global.
Wonderful. Speaking about permanent representation at the UN, maybe perhaps you can mention who represents us there. Is it the Secretary General, Professor Thomas Shimaka?
No, we have a gentleman from Lebanon. He's
Okay.
called Wissam.
Okay.
Yes, he is the one who is the permanent representative there. Of course, he has others who are helping him, but he's the main man, and there are others who are. It's a team.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a sort of a secretariat
Yes.
that represents the evangelicals.
Yes.
So the evangelicals have nothing to worry about. There is somebody representing them there in the UN, in the so-called globalist cartel, right?
Yes.
So if you're following this conversation, you are a leader of a church, a denomination. This is a line, a dotted line, all the way to the UN. So if you have major complaints, you can always find people you can talk to. So don't just sit there and think that somebody's cooking your your pie. So amazing. So let's come back to the issue. I want us to address ourselves, the issue of extremism, the problem of religious extremism in Africa. We've had we know many stories. The Boko Haram situation in northern Nigeria, other conflicts in the Sahel, Mali, and the other countries that are within that region, and many of them, they are religious in nature, those conflicts. So please speak to that. Tell us what's going on. What are the cures? What is AEA doing about those conflicts?
Yeah, thank you so much. This is very important, especially for Christians. And Christians in stable democracies like Kenya, like Botswana, like others, you may think, everything is fine, but the scriptures tell us that we are one body. And when one part is hurt, the whole body should ache.
Okay.
We have a challenge, especially evangelicals in Africa. There are extremists who, most of the time, we are their prime targets.
Okay.
We have data to that effect. We will not be able to, unpack all that data. But just as an example, on the 12th of May 2022, a certain lady called Deborah in Nigeria was stoned to death.
Okay.
Stoned and burnt.
Okay.
Just on religious basis. And within a week, people tried to, to just make a statement by way of peaceful walking. They were threatened by religious extremists.
All right.
And what was supposed to be a walk then became, got confined to a church premise.
Okay.
Within 2 weeks, on the 25th of May 2022, some clergy were abducted, still in Nigeria, when they were doing their official duty. And they were abducted. And so we have catalog of incidents of religious extremism in our continent. In the Sahel region, countries of Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger is still quiet, and we thank God. We have incidents of religious extremism, and in most cases, targeting evangelical Christians. So in Southern Africa, for decades, it was quiet.
Okay.
But of recent, in the last 3-4 years, we have incidents in the Cabo Delgado of extremism,
Okay.
Where Christians were targeted. At one point, a pastor's head was chopped off in front of his wife. A child was taken from the mother, cut into pieces, cooked, and the mother was told to eat that baby. Incidents, I mean, these are things that are happening in our lifetime.
A lifetime, yes, yes.
And they are not myths, they are not things that we are reading about in the past. They are things that are here. And they are targeting Christians.
We are talking about 2022.
2022.
Yes.
In 16th of January 2023 in Eastern Congo, the church was bombed by religious extremists. And about 14 people died. Statistics differ. Some say it's 14. But the doers who actually
carried out
that, they put the numbers 26 thereabout, but many more were wounded.
Okay.
These are terror incidents targeting Christians.
Okay.
And we have a history that we can make reference to in the northern part of our continent, where Christianity long time back used to be strong. Now Christianity currently is first generation or second generation, meaning that the people who are there, the current generation, at the most a generation before the current generation. But long time back, those were Christian nations. But because of extremism, the Christian faith was expelled or displaced, and I believe it is the same motive of the extremists. They just want to displace the Christian faith and occupy the space.
Okay.
These are incidents which are happening now, and probably with a motive the same as it was yesterday.
Okay. Okay. Back home here, unfortunately, during the conflict that has been going on, local political conflict, a church was torched, and a mosque was also actually banned or something like that. And is that part of what we are talking about? Things happening in the background. And have you been involved in like?
It needs to be analyzed.
Yes.
It needs to be analyzed so that proper conclusions are done. But if you ask our role and our participation prior to the elections, the last elections, we participated in peace building as AEA.
Okay.
In provinces, what do you call counties?
Yes, counties.
Where which have history
of
Christian, especially Christians, being on the receiving side. So we were following events and mitigating those spaces with peace-building messages. If we analyze the language of campaign and we deem this campaign or this language is can incite extremism, we come with messages of peace.
Okay.
In one of the counties, in one of the cities, we brought together the youth from different religious persuasion.
Yes.
In football teams.
Okay.
We sponsored that. They played together as different groups, people, teams made of different religious background. Okay. So as a way of promoting peace.
Exactly.
So we do, and mostly it will be our national alliance within the national space.
Okay.
And we come in just to back and to empower.
Okay, excellent. And I think that's really amazing, because a cure must be found. There's so much talk about justice. There's so much talk about some of these issues. Again, you mentioned political instability in some of these countries. Very well indeed. So what when AE is going through these sort of things, what are some of the challenges of trying to preach peace in some of these regions?
Well, The challenge is some of the challenges. It's over regulations. If I may, if I understand you, and I may chip in, bring in that one.
Yeah.
It's over regulations where in some African countries,
Yes.
as we speak, evangelicals, people who believe the way I believe and you believe, they are not allowed.
Okay.
They are arrested.
Okay.
In Africa, they are arrested. Most of them, our brothers and sisters, are refugees. Not because they have done anything, but because they are hiding, protecting their faith.
Right.
They are not allowed to thrive. They are not allowed to come together. They are not allowed to pray. They are not. Evangelicals, I argue, are the most noble citizens of any country.
Right. I think that needs
They
to be
are
said.
law-abiding. They are good, extremely good citizens, and every country should want to have evangelicals as their citizens.
Right.
But you have countries which they disallow.
Right.
They are the most peaceful. Then they are rejected and
Yet
muted
they are rejected and targeted.
targeted.
All right.
So these are some of the spaces. In some spaces, just over regulations of, putting qualifications very high for an evangelical to thrive. So you will have constitutions which subscribe to Universal Declaration of Human Rights. They subscribe to those.
Yes.
The constitutions.
Yes.
But over and above constitutions, they come up with regulations.
Okay.
How to worship, how to do church. And you can see that the bar is raised very high.
Okay.
To deliberately mute you and make you moribund and of irrelevance, of no relevance in your in your space.
Okay.
So these are some of the challenges that we have in the continent of Africa. Nice constitutions from north to the south.
Yes.
But over and above the nice constitutions, you have regulations.
Okay, but speaking about regulations, there has been this theory and ideas that Rwanda, we can talk about Rwanda.
Yeah.
President Kagame is a very public guy.
Yeah.
But there has been stories, and I think there are spins, maybe you can put facts to the story, about very stringent regulations of the church in Rwanda, and the Rwandan government having an agenda to muscle, as you say, evangelicals are the best citizens. They are all peace-loving, very civil across the nations. So, is there truth in that? And because some of the bishops have been preaching about it,
Well, we have one of our strong alliances
Yes.
as evangelicals in Rwanda.
Okay.
We are thriving. We are doing well.
Okay.
Having said that, it's also true that the government has put some regulations to the effect that for you to open a church and operate a church, you need a minimum of a bachelor's degree in theology.
Okay.
And then the government, after putting that in place, gave the affected people 5 years grace period.
Okay.
To put their things in
Their house in order.
before the implementation of the. So I think this year is the last year of the
Is
grace
the deadline?
period.
Yes.
But I can tell you that even before the end of the grace period, many evangelicals and Pentecostals have since closed, even before the end, in lieu of the impending regulation.
Okay.
So, and then whether to impose a minimum degree for a pastor is a just cause.
Okay.
Is now in the open public for us to say, is
Yes.
this over-regulation or not?
Right.
What qualification did Christ had? What qualification did Apostle Peter had? What qualification did Thomas had? Those that, were given the mantle to perpetuate or to take the church forward. And the question is, if Apostle Peter lived in that environment now, would he be an apostle? Would he plant a church?
Yeah.
Those are the questions and the
even
argument.
Paul, the writer of the New Testament, he would have to go and get his letters accepted in a local university, verified by some local professors, for him to get awarded maybe a honorary bachelor's or something like that, so that he can.
So those are that's what is happening. Sir.
Okay. I think that's very, very good. I'm very glad that you've thrown light to that. So basically what you're saying, and evangelicals need to hear this, is that you can have a very, very good constitution. The articles are clear, no discrimination, they give space. But then what happens, nation or government come in with the regulations, which, and the acts of parliament. Acts of parliament sometimes contested with a few contested clauses, but then below that are regulations which really actualize an act. So that's why we need to watch out the details of what's going on. Right. Okay. Very good. And Rwanda is a very good case of an overregulated, movement, while the movement itself, in of itself, is thriving and running very well. Excellent. What are the other challenges that you see evangelical movement in Africa facing, and the church in general? I know that's a very general question, but I'm sure, given your experience as the Secretary General of the association within Africa, there are many things. So there is the issue of extremism, and then of course the constitutional issues and regulations. What are the others?
The other challenges that we face as evangelicals in Africa is the untrained leadership.
Okay.
We have a lot of course, we are embarking on some research to ascertain and the correct figures and statistics. But currently, the data that is thrown around is 80% of the people who are leading churches are untrained.
Okay.
But of course, you need to define untrained.
Right.
Do you mean they have certificate or diploma, or the minimum? What minimums? What are the minimums?
Okay. I'm going to hold you there.
Thank you.
I'm going to hold you there. Then we go for a short break. Then we'll come back to that, because that's a big issue. And it is something that can become a trap, like you're saying, the Rwanda case. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you're following this conversation, I'm talking to the General Secretary, the Association of Evangelicals in Africa, Dr. Master. He's an amazing man. He's a lot of information, and some of the things that bother the church in our nations, really, they are issues that need to be addressed so that the church can thrive in Africa. So we should take a very short break. When we come back, we'll come back to the issue of training and pastors and skills. So don't go away. Keep it Elevate TV. We come back shortly.
Something leave Jesus this conference and fall upon you.
Pastor Sunda Juma invites you to the annual Women of Power Conference 2023, taking place on Friday 21st and Saturday 22nd April 2023 at the Apostolic House, Kenya Cinema Plaza, Moi Avenue, Nairobi. The theme of this year's conference is for such a time as this. Drawn from Esther chapter 4 verse 14. Ministering alongside Pastor Sunta Juma shall be God's General, Bishop Margaret Wangare.
There is no other name higher than the name of Jesus.
Friday sessions will run from 10 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. and Saturday from 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. This conference will be aired live on Elevate TV and its social media platforms. Women of Power Conference 2023, for such a time as this.
Welcome back. Welcome back. We're talking about the fight against religious extremism and other problems facing, bedeviling the evangelicals in Africa. My guest is saying that evangelicals are the most civil citizens in any country, in any part of the world, and they have been targeted by extremists in various countries, banned, marginalized, and many other things, and there are reasons behind that. And so we are exploring those matters here. And welcome back, my guest, Dr. Master Matlhaope. Yeah, I really have to master that. You know, Botswana, you guys have an amazing language. Maybe you need to tell us a little bit of the stories of Botswana and their insistence on twisting their tongue, you know, when they are speaking. And you have brothers in South Africa, don't you?
Yeah, thank you so much. The amazing thing is, if somebody is watching us, you will think, yeah, we are brothers.
Yes, but you guys look like Kenyans. You very much look like Kikuyus. If we take you to Kikuyu land, you're just at home.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So anyway, let's come back to the matter we were discussing before we went to the break. We were talking about education skills for pastors, a major issue. And you said, for example, that it's not very clear. There is clearly a problem of lack of skilled, workers in Christ's field. So that then compounds the problem in Rwanda, because the Rwanda government is insisting on a degree certificate for anybody to be a pastor, and here we are. Estimated numbers are 80% of pastors do not have even a certificate. Maybe you can explore that a little bit. Tell us how deep the problem is and what is being done to address that problem from your association.
Thank you so much. Like I said, we are in a process right now, and we will be launching that research process on the 17th of April 2023. We'll be launching a process which entails a research to have verifiable data to that effect, to verify whether it's truly 80% and 20% of trained and untrained pastors. But whichever there is a fact, majority of the church leaders are untrained.
Yes.
And that has consequences.
All right.
In terms of doctrine, in terms of what people believe in. We have had some cases in southern part of Africa. Not South Africa, but southern part of Africa. Where we have serious incidents of people, in the name of spirituality, doing very outward things that we abhor as evangelicals.
Yes.
I mean, we are people who are respectful and respectable. And we don't need to perpetuate incidents where, in some cases, you have people eating grass in the name of spirituality, people drinking petrol in the name of spirituality, that, this petrol I can change into water, and then you pray, and then this is no longer drink it. This grass is now like chocolates, and then you see people eating grass like animals.
Right.
That is indecent.
Okay.
And
gives the evangelicalism a very bad name.
So, and of course, overemphasis on prosperity. Prosperity is God's way of life, but you have overemphasis of the same, which becomes now a nuisance, where you now have people who are not working, who do not work hard, who do not, and they think, they will just prosper without working. So we need a balance.
Right.
So these are some of the symptoms of untrained leadership.
Okay.
And also just the general administration of the church or organizations. You need to be trained. So, but we are putting together something that we first recognize that this is a challenge. Secondly, these are people who some of them are leading very big churches. They cannot leave the church and go to Bible school or to a seminary or college.
Okay.
The work will collapse.
Yeah.
These are people with families and they have children to take care of. So we are now working on a non-formal strategy.
Okay.
Where we can have these people trained and accredit the program and ultimately have these people, with certificate after going through some training, informal training. That is the solution that we are working on to address this problem of untrained leadership. But you had asked what are the challenges other than extremism. So I said this is one. The other challenge that we are seeing and is vivid is secularism.
Okay.
Secularism is subtle. It comes in a very subtle form, and but the church is supposed to be the conscience of the society. But when you lose that consciousness to the society, you become just like a social club. There are no do's and don'ts, and slowly secularism is coming into the church to try to make the church blunt, and everything is acceptable.
Yeah, I know that's a big problem.
That's a big challenge.
It's a big problem, and it's a very tricky problem, because even just understanding what secularism is and the underlying arguments and elements and ideologies and some of the theological problems that have given rise to secularism. So it's a complicated problem, but it's weakening the evangelical church, the evangelical movement, blunting its witness. Wonderful. So as you follow this conversation, I'm talking to the Secretary General of the Association of Evangelicals in Africa, and we're talking about some of the extreme problems and challenges that are facing Africa. And I would like us to go back to the issue of training, because I know that, and to the surprise of some of the people watching, that the association actually gave birth to some of the key theological institutions in Africa. There is the Benin Evangelical School of Theology, and there is the former Nairobi Evangelical Graduate School of Theology, which is now International Leadership University. Maybe you can, just inform our leaders and some of the pastors that those institutions were actually created by the association, and they are meant actually to provide the space for training.
Thank you so much. Association of Evangelicals came up with projects. One in Cote d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast, which is called PEMA. It's a broadcasting. It targets the Francophone, the French-speaking countries. The other institution is the current Africa International University, not International Leadership.
Africa International University.
Of course, there is a conversation of a measure, so I understand where you are coming from. And then we have BEST, Bangui Evangelical School of Theology in Bangui, in the Central African Republic. So the idea was the next, now Africa International University, targeting the Anglophone. And then
English speaking.
English speaking.
Yes.
And then you have the Bangui Evangelical School of Theology for the Francophone. And they are doing very well. The best has a satellite in now Cameroon, expanding its premises and its reach on the Francophone. And I should say the two have produced world-class leaders, not only for the church but also for the marketplace. We have personalities which are building nations from these institutions. That's our contribution, and we are grateful to God.
Right.
We also have CLMC, which is our institution that deals with curriculum for curriculum and learning material for children. It's also housed here in Kenya.
Yes, Kenya, yes, Nairobi.
Yes, it is in publishing. Yeah, so maybe to encourage your viewers that you can publish. And we have CLMC, it's in current, and they can publish your material. They can help you publish a book, including pastors. They can help you put together your sermons and produce a book and leave a legacy.
Right.
So we have CLMC. We also have ACTI. ACTI is for accreditation. If you have a Bible school or a seminary or a university with a faculty of theology, this is an accreditation.
Okay.
It comes and assesses your university or seminary or college, and then it shows you the gaps.
Okay.
Which you can then work on to attain quality theological education in your college. Then ultimately you can be accredited by this. It's a continental. So whether you are here in Kenya, you have a college or Bible school, there is an institution, an accrediting body that can help you to see, are there gaps? Where are my gaps?
Yes.
I want quality.
Yes.
Where am I? They will give you a professionally done assessment.
Okay.
And make recommendations for you. Then you take that road towards quality theological education.
Okay.
These are some of the things that we are doing, besides our associate members who are also professional entities where you can get services, various services.
Right. Yeah. No. I really love especially the thrust, the theological thrust, because, like you said, one of the problems that the evangelical church faces is, a lack of fully skilled pastors and Bible teachers. So that's a huge issue. Now, you have mentioned only in passing, but I want you to speak to another issue, and this is the issue of how the church can make a difference in state governance. The issue of governance, you've mentioned that some of the alumni of some of these associations, related institutions, have actually gone on to public spaces, and they are helping build nations. Disciple nations. So how can the church have positive influence in state governance?
All right. Thank you very much. Very, very important direction of our discussion. But maybe I should just clarify that you don't have to wait to become a senator, a governor, or a member of parliament to make contribution in the socio-economic and political space.
All right.
I have, since taking responsibility, invited church leadership to review our theology. And my argument has been, we have been more on proclamation than demonstration of the gospel. We preach, and we have preached so much, and we continue. We must keep that up. We must keep proclaiming. But we have been very, very less on demonstration.
Okay.
And demonstration, I'm not just talking about the blind being given
opening
sight,
blind eyes,
the lame walking.
Yes.
I'm also talking about demonstrating our values.
Okay.
If you look at our strategic documents, you will have very beautiful values in our constitutions, like love, kindness, compassion, peace. These are very good things, but they remain abstractive.
Okay.
They are abstract and they are not tangible.
Right.
My argument is how the church is called to show how peace looks like.
Okay.
The church is called to show how kindness looks like and how compassion looks like. So we need to demonstrate, and we can do that by crystallizing these values into actions. And
I like that.
We can do that through programs. What is your role as a church within a community? Is it just to get people to be born again and to worship and to go home? What about the poor children who are roaming the streets? How do we relate to them? Do we wait for the government to come up with programs for the orphans, for the destitutes, for the widows and so on, and the poor? Does the government have values that we have as the church of love, kindness, compassion? Not necessarily. The people who have these values are the church, us.
Yes.
And we have resources
Right.
to make a difference. Look at the cars we drive when we go to churches.
Yes.
Look at the suits that we change every Sunday, and the shoes and everything that we have. We are rich, we have money.
I demonstrate the evangelicals are clearly, most of them are in the middle class.
There you are. But what is our take to the development of our countries? Now, the scriptures that we read, oftentimes we choose where we read, but some of the scriptures says the God that we worship is the father of the fatherless, meaning the orphans that are here in the streets are his children.
Okay.
And now I am worshiping this God. How am I related to this orphans? Oftentimes we have trained our consciences to, look away when we see this needy within our streets. We look away, we pretend, these are useless people, they don't deserve even a greeting, they are. But what is our role? And then sometimes we pass them to enter our cathedrals, to enter our worship services.
Okay.
And here we are in the presence of God. Which God? The God of the fatherless, who we just passed. And here we are in affluent. We eat and we throw in the dustbins. We don't have deliberate programs of adoption. We don't promote adoption in our churches. We don't tell our members there are children who don't have parents. What do we do?
I like the way you're making it practical, because if you raise even just the issue of adoption in a sermon, okay, maybe if you ask, how many sermons have you had on adoption? Maybe 0 across the board. So in other words, there's a problem here and we're just completely ignoring it. And by the way, we're very busy praying for motherless women in our churches and just laying hands on them, lots of hands, I'm telling you, until their hair is, instead of telling them, hey, can you in the meantime adopt some children? Absolutely.
Yes, yet the concepts of adoption are central to the scriptures.
Okay.
But we run to the spiritual component.
Okay.
We come here in the church and we enter the spirit. And where the spirit is where God lives, where we meet God, and then we leave the spirit after church service. We go into the world. And once we have left our spaces, we are like atheists.
Right.
People who don't believe in God.
Right.
If we believe in God, then we should act on the offense.
Right.
That are there on the streets. And I argue that if the church in Kenya was to demonstrate the gospel, within 3 months, 6 months, we will not have street children.
Wow.
And we don't have to wait for the government.
Right. Absolutely. And you're saying it's really being proactive. It's crystallizing the values that are actually in our documents everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, and we preach about it. We talk about love. We sweat it out as we hammer away how we ought to love one another.
Yes.
Amazing, amazing. So that's really an amazing thing. You know, the church needs to get involved in that. So what else should the church do to have an impact in the nation?
The church should be a catalyst of change. We have a serious problem of corruption in Africa. I have a cry.
Okay.
That God should transform the continent of Africa. This is the richest continent in the whole world.
Right.
Yet one of the poorest as per GDPs, per capita
Yes.
income, yet the poorest. And we have about 200 million evangelicals in Africa.
Okay.
Out of the 600 professing Christians in Africa.
Right.
200 million are evangelicals of 1.3 billion.
Africans. Yes.
Africans.
Yes.
Such a massive population of Christians in the continent, yet such disparity, poverty in the same continent. What is this? So the church should lead transformation of our continent by ensuring that we nip corruption in the bud, because one of the main problems of our continent is corruption. And we need to nip that, and it should start in the church.
Okay.
In other words, we should know that corruption is corruption. And these are people, when I talk of the church, I'm talking about our permanent secretaries, our directors, and even our presidents.
Yes.
The church.
Most of these guys, like in our nation here in Kenya, and I'm sure you can testify to that, Kenya has one of the most thriving body of evangelicals. Maybe out of the 200 millions in Africa, perhaps we contribute a whole 10 million or even more of evangelicals.
Yeah, so for me, that's an add. Where does corruption come from?
Yes.
If we are so many evangelicals and Christians in Africa, and not only Kenya. I have traveled this continent. I have met presidents who are strong evangelicals. His prime minister, strong evangelicals, and president who, and so I believe the church should really lead on the transformation of the continent.
Okay.
We want Africa that prospers and her peoples prosper.
Right.
In fact, our long-term vision as AEA is the Africa that God wants. And this is comparable to the African Union vision.
Okay.
The African Union vision is the Africa we want. Our vision is the Africa that God wants.
Right.
Now, the Africa that God wants is a corruption-free Africa.
Okay.
It's a Africa free from conflicts. It's Africa where guns are silent.
Right.
It's Africa where children respect their parents, not shooting their parents with guns.
Right.
In some countries in this continent, we have had to have innovation projects of former children soldiers. And in one country, I couldn't stop tears. You know, holding this former child soldier, who was still a child, but I was told he has been a child soldier for the last 9 years. And I was wondering, since when was he a child soldier? Here is a child who is supposed to be a resource for her parents, but he's holding AK-47 against parents, against humanity. So it's pathetic. It's a continent where resources becomes poisonous.
Yeah.
We need innovative citizens. You know, Africa is one of the continents with more sun energy. But in most countries, we are decrying the scorching sun instead of harvesting the energy.
Right.
Africa is a continent where resources are poison. We have in one of the countries, methane in an ocean-like size. When countries are crying for natural gas, and in the 21st century where we have technology to harness such resources and change them and make them usable, the resources are poisonous. Children who are supposed to be resources are child soldiers.
Amazing.
These are things which the church should really lead and transform this continent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest, Dr. Master Matlhaope, Matlhaope, he is an amazing man. He's the General Secretary of the Alliance of Evangelicals in Africa, telling it as it is. I believe that there is so much potential. Africa is the continent of potential, and you've had it for yourself. So that's all we had for you today, and we hope that we could continue this conversation another day. But more so, keep it Elevate TV, keep it the Gigi Report. We'll bring you more of this kind of conversation. I believe you have learned. I believe you have taken something, and you're inspired to take action to become the change, the agent of transformation for Africa. And thank you so much, General Secretary, for coming and speaking to us. We truly appreciate, and God bless you so much.
Thank you, Gigi, and thank you, dear audience. God bless you.
Absolutely. God bless you. Bye for now. We'll see you another day.